If you haven't heard about Anchor by Spotify, let me give you a rundown. Basically, it's the easiest way to make a podcast with everything you need all in one place. Here how it's work. Anchor lets you record and edit podcasts right from your phone or computer, so no matter what your setup is, you can start creating today. Then you can distribute your podcast to the most popular listening platforms, including Spotify, with a single tap. Anchor is also the only place you can publish video podcasts to Spotify. With Anchor, creators can earn money in a variety of ways, including ads and podcast subscriptions. And best of all, Anchor is totally free. Download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. And the amount that you can upload on Anchor is unlimited, which is really helpful for me. And it also helps you with getting statistics for your podcast in terms of where people are listening from, so that you know how many people listen to your podcast all over the world.
Hi, I am Jennifer Purcell, and welcome to my podcast, Living with an Invisible Learning Challenge, where we will discuss, discover, and learn more about the challenges and triumphs of those with NLD and other learning challenges. I do have a website for this podcast, and it is called livingwithnld.com. I also have a Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter account for the podcast. They are all under the same name, which is Living with NLD. I also have a YouTube channel for the podcast, which can be found by Googling the title of the podcast, which is Living with an Invisible Learning Challenge. I would like to tell you about a nonprofit that I use for my research for this podcast. It is called the Nbld Project, and I use their blog for my research. They are a nonprofit that is based in New York and is trying to get NBLD back on the DSM, and they provide many resources for people with NBLD on their website. I'll provide you with the website for them in the podcast description. All proceeds from the ads on this podcast will be donated towards the NBLD Project. Please feel free to explore the other topics on the podcast, and hopefully you will learn something new from them. I hope you enjoy today's episodes.
And today I am very excited to announce that Betterhelp is now sponsoring this podcast. I have had 7 years of therapy, so I know it can help change your life if you not only let it, but work on the personal goals that you set with your therapist. Without a healthy mind, being truly happy and at peace is hard. The good news is therapy works. But what is therapy exactly? It's whatever you want it to be. Maybe you're not feeling motivated right now and would like some tools to help. Or maybe you're feeling insecure in relationships at work, not dealing well with stress. Whatever you need, it's time to stop being ashamed of normal human struggles and start feeling better, because you deserve to be happy. And now you don't have to worry about finding an in-person therapist near you to help. BetterHelp is customized online therapy that offers video, phone, and even live chat sessions with your therapist, so you don't have to see anyone on camera if you don't want to. It's more affordable than in-person therapy, and you can start communicating with your therapist in under 48 hours. Join the millions of people who are seeing what online therapy is really about. It's always a good time to invest in yourself because you are the greatest asset. And special offering to listeners of Living with an Invisible Learning Challenge. You can get 10% off your first month of professional therapy at betterhelp.com/ I'll put in the link in the podcast description for you. That's BetterHelp, HELEP. Thanks again to Betterhelp for sponsoring this podcast.
The next Facebook chat will be in August, and it will be on the 20th at 10 a.m. Pacific time zone to 11:30 a.m. Pacific time zone, and that it is a safe space for you to talk about anything you would wish to and your challenges with NLD. Hope to see you there.
I also want to mention to you that I just launched my podcast swag on Wednesday of this week and have a page for it on my website, and I will also send you the link to it in the podcast description, and I will also send it to you in the newsletter that I usually send out on Fridays. I am now selling t-shirts, water bottles, and a backpack, and they all have the podcast logo and title on it and the tagline. So I'm looking forward to watching the sales and seeing who buys them, and spreading the word more about my podcast. I also want to mention to you that I just launched my podcast swag on Wednesday of this week and have a page for it on my website, and I will also send you the link to it in the podcast description, and I will also send it to you in the newsletter that I usually send out on Fridays. I am now selling t-shirts, water bottles, and a backpack, and they all have the podcast logo and title on it and the tagline. So I'm looking forward to watching the sales and seeing who buys them, and spreading the word more about my podcast.
Hello, happy Friday. So today's episode will be about NLD and Radical Acceptance. So before I begin, I want to let you know that I'll be talking about some topics that might be a little triggering for you if you've ever experienced sexual abuse or know somebody who has, or if you're trying to radically accept something in your life that you know is never going to change because of how basically of how that person responded to it, and that they responded in most likely in the way that you didn't think they were going to respond, and that their thinking about it is most likely never going to change. So the situation is going to stay the same, and you have to radically accept that fact. So, have you ever had to accept that things won't change even though you want them to? I know that people will have to radically accept different things in their life. For me, it was my sexual abuse disclosure in my family. I have had to do this many times in my life because of my family taking sides after I disclosed the sexual abuse I had. It was hard in the beginning because my extended family was taking sides and not responding in the way I thought they would. My immediate family, close friends, and some of my extended family members believed me and my story, but the majority didn't. They took my cousin's side and believed his story. Even worse, they thought I was to blame for some of it and had some fault in it. I didn't know what he was doing at all until my mom told me after I disclosed it. I knew it was wrong when I got older, and he said not to tell anyone because we would both get into trouble. And he didn't say that until I asked him, actually the night before I told my mom, because at that point I had had enough and I was wondering what to do to stop it. And I knew that once he said that it definitely was wrong. and that I was the only one who was going to stop him, because in reality, um, I didn't get in trouble at all. He did. Um, I was my own hero that day in late August of 2008. It took therapy, getting a dog, running, and many times crying to let go of the trauma. And that was 5 years of therapy. I'm still in therapy for some of it as well. I started therapy when I was 12 years old and had 5 years of therapy, like I said, 4 in high school and 1 in college. As a result of therapy, I've learned many things, like how to lucid dream so I could stop my nightmares and triggers that I had back then. I had 2 more years of therapy during the pandemic. These years were for NLD, for the con artist experience, and some of the trauma that is still left over in my life as triggers. I also am still working on accepting the changes to my family and life. Because I've had no contact with my family, with my extended family, the perpetrator's family, since the disclosure, I haven't been able to watch my young cousins grow up. I'm also not close to my extended family. There have been no discussion of it for 14 years. It's like there's a big elephant in the family. It is hard to accept that you will never see a part of your family because of this, and it won't change for the rest of your life. It is also hard when other people in your life are close to their extended family and you know you aren't. And even worse when you know it won't change. Even if someone said sorry now, it wouldn't make even the slightest difference. It would be too late to make a difference. I would like it very much to tell my cousin a little bit about the hell he put my family through for about 5 years, but it wouldn't make a difference in the family because I don't think they would change their views. I'm okay with living my life like this until I die. After all, I've been doing it for 14 years already. It's not that hard. It is disappointing and sad. Sadder, more sad than disappointing. Sometimes I wish I could have changed what happened, but honestly, I'm not sure I would have been able to. And it might have done more damage than good. Most likely, I'll be working on accepting this for the rest of my life. I know I've been talking about myself for most of this episode, so I'll shift to someone else now. I'll add some of my thoughts about other forms of radical acceptance. So, this is just me speculating maybe what you've been going through if you are radically accepting something in your life. Maybe you're trying to accept the fact that your dog isn't going to come back from death, or that your husband, father, brother, sister, mother, close friend, or another loved one isn't in your life anymore. You may also be trying to accept the loss of a partner that you were close with but aren't with anymore, or maybe the loss of a job or career you enjoyed. Maybe you lost it during the pandemic. What I've done to help me accept that things won't change in my life is thinking about the good things in my life. I try to remind myself that my life is good despite the negative things present in it from the past. I do have a family, a dog, and friends that love me. I also have a job that I love. I have a podcast that has helped me change my life for the better. I love my podcast because I get to watch it grow and receive feedback from my audience. I have learned so much from this podcast. I have learned more about NLD and myself. I've been able to help myself more since I created this podcast. The podcast and therapy have helped me change my life around. It has also helped me have a closer, better, and more honest relationship with my family and friends. And something I would like to add here that I just kind of thought about it I think it's hard to radically accept things that won't change in your life because you not just because you want them to change, but because if you're in the similar situation to where I am in, you for me, I got reminded of how my family was when I started dating um, I because the person I would be dating would be talking about how closer to their extended family, and that would trigger in my mind and be like, oh, well, yeah, I was close to my extended family, and not anymore. I mean, of course, I am close to the ones that believe me and don't blame me for what happened, but the handful of others that don't think that way and do blame me for what happened, um, I'm not close to them at all. I don't even think about them unless I'm triggered about what happened. And there are a lot of things that changed in my life after the disclosure. And, you know, not all of them were good. Some of them were pretty horrific and hard to get through. Um, but it's made me who I am today. And um, that part I'm thankful for, that it made me stronger and that it made me, excuse me, be able to, excuse me, be able to notice more about how deceptive somebody can be um, when they're trying to do something that they know is wrong and that they're being sneaky about it and hiding it and um, trying to not let others know that it's going on. Um, it's like they're putting it behind a veil almost. And anyway, what I'm trying to say here is that it's good to realize what is triggering in your life for that bad thing that might have a negative thing that might have happened in your past, and to realize what is triggering the radical acceptance. Um, and for me, yeah, it definitely, dating is part of it, and just, some piece of it is, whenever I wrap up today, I want you to try to think about something that you have that you would radically accept in your life, that um, how you can try to radically accept something negative in your life. Maybe the solution for you will be to try to remember the good things in your life, as I do.
And today I am very excited to announce that BetterHelp is now sponsoring this podcast. I have had 7 years of therapy, so I know it can help change your life if you not only let it, but work on the personal goals that you set with your therapist. Without a healthy mind, being truly happy and at peace is hard. The good news is therapy works. But what is therapy exactly? It's whatever you want it to be. Maybe you're not feeling motivated right now and would like some tools to help. Or maybe you're feeling insecure in relationships at work, not dealing well with stress. Whatever you need, it's time to stop being ashamed of normal human struggles and start feeling better because you deserve to be happy. And now you don't have to worry about finding an in person therapist near you to help. BetterHelp is customized online therapy that offers video, phone, and even live chat sessions with your therapist, so you don't have to see anyone on camera if you don't want to. It's more affordable than in person therapy, and you can start communicating with your therapist in under 48 hours. Join the millions of people who are seeing what online therapy is really about. It's always a good time to invest in yourself because you are the greatest asset. And special offering to listeners of Living with an Invisible Learning Challenge. You can get 10% off your first month of professional therapy at betterhelp.com/. I'll put in the link in the podcast description for you. That's BetterHelp, HELEP. Thanks again to BetterHelp for sponsoring this podcast.
As I wrap up, there are some things I would like to share with you. I do have a website for this podcast. It is called livingwithnld.com. I also have a Facebook and Instagram page for this podcast. It is called Living with NLD. I will include the links for those in the description. In conclusion, I would like to hear from my audience. If you know individuals with NLD that I could interview for this podcast, please email me at livingwithnld@gmail.com. What are you interested in learning about NLD? I know I'm not an expert, but I do know I have the living experience of having it. I would like you to practice journaling about your gifts and differences. Also, see if there is a way that you can make that difference become easier for you to do than it originally was. Thank you for listening today, and please go to my YouTube channel and subscribe to it. Thank you. Bye.